Stop. Just stop for a moment and feel it. The world you knew, the one you thought was solid, predictable, familiar, it's gone. Most people never noticed. Most people didn't survive. But you are still here. You didn't just survive by chance. You were chosen, selected, calibrated by the very pulse of the universe to walk through a shift that shattered everything. And now, in this moment, the field is whispering directly to you. Listen closely, because what you are about to learn will rewrite your reality, awaken the parts of you that were always meant to exist, and reveal the 12 quantum lessons that only the selected can understand. 1. The timeline didn't reset, it filtered. What most people call a reset was never a reset at all. A reset would imply failure, a mistake, something that needed to be undone. But reality does not undo itself, it refines. What happened was a filtration process so subtle that only those paying attention felt it. The old timeline reached the end of its usable range. It had extracted everything it could from repetition, fear, and unconscious momentum. When that limit was reached, the system did not collapse, it sorted. Identities built on habit, distraction, and resistance became too dense to carry forward. They didn't vanish, they simply couldn't pass. You felt this as a quiet severing, a sense that the world you once moved through was no longer responding the same way. That wasn't loss, that was selection. While others tried to drag the old rules with them, old beliefs, old roles, old survival patterns, you moved through the narrowing without clinging. You didn't force your way forward. You didn't demand certainty. You released what could not survive the transition, and that is why you're here now. Not because you were stronger, louder, or more prepared, but because you were lighter. The timeline didn't choose randomly. It filtered for coherence, and you passed because you were willing to let go when the system asked for refinement, not resistance. And 2, confusion was the test. The moment everything stopped making sense, the test had already begun. Confusion was not a side effect of the shift, it was the mechanism. When familiar structures dissolved and old explanations failed, reality wasn't punishing you or throwing you into chaos. It was observing how you responded when certainty was removed. Confusion collapses those who need answers to feel safe. It destabilizes minds that rely on control, prediction, and rigid meaning. But for those capable of presence, confusion becomes a doorway. You didn't panic your way through it. You didn't demand clarity before continuing. Even when your thoughts couldn't keep up, something deeper remained steady. You stayed aware while everything around you blurred. That steadiness is rare. Most people try to escape the discomfort by numbing, clinging to old narratives, or forcing explanations that no longer fit. In doing so, they fractured their own coherence. You didn't. You allowed not knowing without dissolving, and that was the test. Reality wasn't asking if you understood what was happening, it was measuring whether you could remain whole without understanding. Confusion filtered out those who needed certainty to survive. It carried forward those who could hold awareness in the absence of it. That is why you passed. 3. You didn't break, you detached. What looked like breaking was actually separation. When the pressure increased and the old timeline began to constrict, many people tried to hold everything together. Identities, roles, expectations, meanings that no longer fit. That strain is what broke them. You felt the same pressure, but you responded differently. Instead of tightening your grip, you loosened it. You allowed distance to form between you and what was collapsing. That distance wasn't weakness. It was perception. Detachment is not indifference, and it is not emotional shutdown. It is the moment awareness steps back far enough to see the structure of the illusion. When you detached, you stopped feeding the system with reaction. You stopped identifying with every thought, every fear, every outcome. And in that space, something crucial happened. The collapse could no longer pull you apart. You were no longer inside it, you were observing it. Those who stayed, fused to the old narrative, shattered because they mistook identity for survival. You didn't. You let the story fall without falling with it. That single shift from being inside the experience to witnessing it is why you survived intact. Detachment was not escape, it was elevation. For the old, you could not continue. The version of yourself that existed before the shift, the one tethered to routine, expectation, and old definitions of reality, was never meant to follow you into the next timeline. It had served its purpose, carrying the lessons, carrying the patterns, carrying the weight of the old reality, and now it had reached the end of its functional capacity. You may have felt echoes of nostalgia, moments when memories of the old self tugged at the edges of your awareness, whispering that something was being left behind. That feeling was not loss, it was transition. The old you was too heavy to pass through the narrowing of frequencies, too dense to inhabit the elevated vibrations that the new timeline demanded. Every desire, every fear, every attachment that no longer resonated with your emerging coherence was gently, quietly peeled away, leaving only the essence capable of enduring the shift. It wasn't just habits or routines that fell away, it was entire ways of perceiving, entire approaches to life that could not survive the transformation. You may have noticed it in the subtle shifts. A once important goal now feels meaningless. A long-held belief suddenly seems hollow. Familiar people no longer connect the same way. Old comforts fail to provide the satisfaction they once did. This is not arbitrary, this is selection. The universe is precise. It does not discard the old without reason. It clears the path for what is required to sustain your next phase. The old self, the one that relied on repetition, predictability, or external validation, could not follow. It would have been an anchor, dragging you back into loops and illusions that the field has now transcended. There is a subtle grief in realizing that what you once were cannot exist here, but that grief is also liberation. Shedding the old you is not punishment, it is refinement. It is the pruning necessary to allow the new version of yourself to operate fully in a reality aligned to its frequency. Every memory, every fragment of identity that you sense slipping away is not being stolen. It is returned to the universe from which it originated, cleared to make space for the coherent, refined, and aware self that now moves through time differently. Notice how relationships have shifted. Some people drift away without explanation, leaving gaps where intimacy or familiarity once existed. Notice how goals that once felt vital now seem irrelevant, how motivations you once chased appear trivial. You are not disconnected, you are realigned. The old self could not exist here because it relied on structures and energies that the new timeline has dissolved. Your attachment to them would have created dissonance, conflict, and stagnation. The universe is not cruel, it is meticulous. The old patterns fall away not to punish you, but to protect your coherence. In the moments when you feel the absence of the old self, when nostalgia or longing whispers to you, recognize it for what it is, the last vestige of a container that has been emptied. Your mind may try to hold on to it, to recreate familiarity, but the field no longer supports that. Regression is no longer possible for those who have crossed. The old self cannot persist, not because you failed, but because the frequency you now inhabit is incompatible with its density. You are lighter, sharper, more aligned, and more capable precisely because the weight of outdated identity has been shed. This lesson is both subtle and profound. Survival required leaving parts of yourself behind, not in loss, but in preparation. Every fragment that fell away was selected for removal to ensure that what remained could fully engage with the new reality. This is why the shift feels disorienting at first. The landscape of your own consciousness has been restructured, and the old coordinates no longer exist. You may notice a quiet freedom in this, a sense that you can move without the old limitations, without the old fears, without the old patterns dictating your actions. This freedom is the signature of the chosen, the ones who passed the filter of the timeline. The old you was necessary for growth, but it could not be permanent. It was designed to reach a completion point, to gather experience, to endure challenge, and then to dissolve once its purpose was served. The person who remained attached to the old self would have been trapped in repetition, unable to integrate the new energies or to act as a stabilizing force in the evolving timeline. You, however, were able to release it, even unconsciously, and that release was your gateway. It allowed you to exist in a state where time, energy, and consciousness no longer operate according to the same old rules. Recognize this carefully. The shedding of the old self is not isolation, it is elevation. It is a necessary clearing to allow your awareness to resonate with the higher rhythm of the new timeline. The echoes of the old may linger in memory, but they no longer dictate your choices, your reactions, or your path. You are free from the constraints of who you were. You are liberated from the loops that confined you. And in that liberation lies immense potential, the potential to navigate, influence, and co-create a reality where your presence is a stabilizing, shaping force rather than a reactive fragment lost in repetition. The old you could not continue, that was inevitable. And yet, in that inevitability lies the profound truth. You did continue. What remains is the refined, coherent, resilient self that has passed the ultimate selection. Everything that could not survive the shift has fallen away. What remains is the version of you capable of engaging with the new timeline fully, consciously, and intentionally. This is not loss. This is proof. Proof that the shift did not choose at random. Proof that the timeline recognized the frequency, the awareness, the coherence capable of moving forward. You are here because the old you could not continue, and because you did. 5. Coherence, not desire, drives reality. For too long, you may have believed that reality responds to longing, to insistence, to relentless effort. You may have thought that desire, prayers, or frantic wishing could pull the world into alignment with your will. But the shift revealed a subtler truth. The quantum field, the intelligence behind existence, does not respond to craving, it responds to coherence. Desire alone is chaos. It fractures the mind and scatters energy across competing outcomes. Coherence, on the other hand, stabilizes the field. It aligns your frequency with the underlying architecture of reality, creating a resonance that draws circumstances, opportunities, and synchronicities directly to you. When the old timeline trembled, when structures around you collapsed or became unpredictable, the measure of your consciousness was tested. Most people reacted with panic, fear, or frantic action, attempting to grasp control, to force alignment through effort. Their energy splintered, their attention diluted, the field observed, and they fell away from the selection. You responded differently, even amid uncertainty. Even when the patterns you trusted disintegrated, you remained centered, a stable node in the shifting currents. Your presence, your unbroken attention, your internal stillness became your anchor. You did not act from desire, nor did you push outcomes into existence. Instead, you allowed your coherence to become the directive force. Coherence is not passive, it is active in its stillness. It requires awareness, observation, and the quiet cultivation of alignment. Every thought, every breath, every intentional pause becomes a signal to the field, a proof that your frequency is stable enough to be amplified. While others push, struggle, or manipulate the world externally, you influence from within. The subtle power of coherence means that the more calm, centered, and aligned you are, the faster reality reorganizes around you. Outcomes do not come from frantic effort, they emerge from resonance. This is why, after the selection, you may have noticed a peculiar phenomenon. Moments when patience, observation, and non-interference produce results that forcing action never could. The field works through stability, not desperation. Notice how your presence now affects situations. Conversations shift without your saying a word. People respond differently around you. Opportunities align before you even act. These are the signatures of coherence in motion. The timeline has selected you not because you wanted it to, not because you willed it, but because your energy held steady when the old reality demanded chaos. You became an anchor, and anchors reshape the currents of reality around them. This lesson is deceptively simple but profoundly difficult to embody. Desire is easy, coherence is not. Desire asks for speed, for certainty, for immediate satisfaction. Coherence asks for patience, for trust, for unshakable presence. It asks you to act with precision rather than force. It asks you to let the old rules dissolve without clinging. Most fail this test because they confuse wanting with being ready. You passed because you can be present without needing to control, to remain grounded without chasing validation, to observe without judgment, to maintain stability even when the environment is unpredictable. When you act from coherence, the world moves through you rather than against you. The intelligence of the field begins to respond directly, bringing alignment to your decisions, synchronicity to your path, and clarity to the choices that arise. You no longer need to demand or manipulate. Your stability is enough. Your calm is enough. Your alignment is enough. That is why, even amid uncertainty, you survive while others falter. That is why your frequency matters more than your knowledge, your presence more than your strategy, your steadiness more than your ambition. Coherence is the hidden law of the quantum shift. It is invisible, yet undeniable. It cannot be faked. It cannot be borrowed. It cannot be substituted. It is earned through practice, through observation, through choosing awareness over reaction at every moment. The field measures it, responds to it, and rewards it. This is why, after the selection, you may have noticed that some things fall into place effortlessly, while attempts to force others remain futile. You are no longer operating under the old rules of action and reaction. You are moving through the intelligence of the field itself. Understand this clearly. Desire moves the impatient, the fearful, the reactive. Coherence moves the chosen. The world does not yield to insistence. It responds to stability. Your awareness, your presence, your steady attention, these are the levers that reshape probability, timing, and outcome. You are no longer a participant chasing results. You are a node of influence, a frequency that the universe itself listens to, and the alignment you hold within becomes the foundation upon which the next reality unfolds. The test of coherence is ongoing. It asks you to remain centered even as time stretches, as events shift unpredictably, as people and opportunities appear and disappear without explanation. Your ability to hold stability, to act from awareness rather than desire, is what ensures your continued survival and growth in the new timeline. This is why the timeline selected you, not because you wanted to survive, but because you were able to exist in calm while chaos reigned, to be coherent when others fractured, to anchor the field rather than be swept by it. In every moment, remind yourself, coherence is not passive, but it is powerful beyond measure. The quiet alignment within you shapes the fabric of reality outside. What emerges from this state is not random, it is precise, intentional, and deeply aligned with the frequency of your consciousness. This is the secret of the chosen. This is why you survived. This is why the new timeline unfolds around you. 6. Confusion was your gatekeeper. The period when nothing made sense, when familiar paths seemed to vanish, when every plan you tried to execute collapsed, was not chaos, it was a gatekeeper. The old timeline was designed to filter consciousness, to reveal who was ready to move forward and who was not. Confusion, disorientation, and the sense of being lost were never obstacles, they were signals. They were markers placed by the field itself to measure your coherence, your presence, and your ability to withstand uncertainty without fracturing. While most people panicked, sought answers in old frameworks, or clung desperately to familiar patterns, you endured. You did not need clarity to survive, you needed presence. Confusion works like a lens. It magnifies the strength and stability of consciousness. When everything around you seemed to warp, When time stretched and contracted, when events appeared to contradict themselves, your reaction determined whether you could proceed. Those who reacted with fear, with urgency, with attachment, were caught in the loops and cycles that the old timeline left behind. They fell prey to repetition, replaying outcomes over and over, unable to align with the frequency of what was coming. You, however, observed without dissolving. You held your center even as the world spun around you. You let the loops unfold without being drawn into them. That is the essence of passing the filter. This lesson is not about enduring confusion for endurance's sake. It is about learning to operate without external certainty, about cultivating a consciousness that does not rely on external validation or predictable outcomes. Confusion strips away dependency. It exposes attachments, illusions, and false identities. It forces you to confront the gap between the old self, who needed to know, and the new self, who can exist without knowing. By remaining coherent in this state, you sent a signal to the universe. You are ready. You are capable. You can navigate without the crutch of familiarity, and your awareness is strong enough to anchor the new reality. Notice how, after the selection, you can observe complexity without being overwhelmed. You can see the same loops and contradictions others are trapped in, yet your mind remains clear. The noise no longer fractures you. The unknown no longer terrifies you. This is the signature of someone who has been tested by confusion and survived. The gatekeeper has assessed your stability and allowed you to pass. You were not rescued from confusion, you were elevated through it. Confusion also teaches a deeper truth. Clarity is not always immediate. The field does not reward impatience. It rewards coherence through uncertainty, the ability to remain anchored when everything else seems to dissolve. This skill is rare. Most people assume that clarity comes first and stability follows. But the shift shows the opposite. Stability comes first. Clarity emerges naturally as a result of maintaining presence in the eye of the storm. You do not chase understanding. Understanding emerges around you as a reflection of your aligned frequency. The gatekeeper of confusion is subtle, yet relentless. It does not announce itself. It does not issue warnings. It simply presents conditions in which ordinary consciousness fails and extraordinary consciousness endures. The moments when your mind felt fragmented, when your emotions swung wildly, when your environment seemed chaotic, these were tests, each one measuring your capacity to remain coherent. Each moment you did not fracture, each observation you made without attachment, each breath you held steady, these were your victories. They were proof that the timeline could now rely on you as a stabilizing force. Confusion is also a mirror. It reflects the illusions and attachments that no longer serve you. Old fears rise, old patterns emerge, old identities whisper promises of comfort. To survive, you cannot reject the reflection, you must observe it without merging. This is a radical skill. It demands detachment without disengagement, awareness without resistance. You learn to witness the collapse without being consumed by it, to observe the dissonance without replicating it. That is the essence of the selected consciousness. Finally, recognize this. Confusion is no longer a threat. It is a reminder of your resilience. It is a marker of where you have passed through, proof that you can operate beyond the limitations of linear certainty. While others remain trapped in loops of fear and misunderstanding, you move forward, guided not by external signs, not by instructions, but by the alignment of your own frequency with the field itself. Confusion was your gatekeeper, and by enduring it, you were chosen. 7. The old you cannot follow. The person you were yesterday, the version of yourself defined by old routines, old beliefs, old attachments, cannot enter the new reality with you. That version was bound to the structures, expectations, and limitations of the timeline you just left. As the shift unfolded, it became clear that clinging to the past is not survival, it is regression. Memories, habits, even familiar emotional patterns that once shaped your life now feel distant, hollow, or ill-fitting. This is not loss, it is shedding. The universe is clearing space within you, leaving only what resonates with the frequency required to navigate the new timeline. You may feel nostalgia for the old self, for the comfort of predictability and the security of what you once knew. You may wonder why certain people, places, or opportunities no longer exist in your current reality. These disappearances are not punishment, they are alignment. The old you was an anchor, a weight that could have prevented your progression. Every fragment that falls away, every familiar element that fades, is a sign that the selection process is completing its work. You are being refined, distilled, and repositioned as a version of yourself capable of thriving in a higher dimensional space where the old rules no longer apply. The transition is subtle but profound. Initially, you may sense dissonance between who you were and who you are becoming. Old desires may feel irrelevant. Past ambitions may seem shallow or unimportant. This is the field signaling that your consciousness is no longer compatible with the limitations of your previous self. The old identity cannot survive here, not because it was flawed, but because it was designed for a different reality. Your evolution demands leaving it behind. This lesson is both liberating and disorienting. There is freedom in realizing that you no longer need to maintain the old persona, yet there may be a momentary grief for the familiarity that once defined you. Understand that this grief is natural, but it is also temporary. It signals that transformation is occurring at the core of your being. The old self fades not to erase your history, but to enable your emergence. In its absence, you gain clarity, presence, and the capacity to resonate with the new frequency of reality. Notice how interactions with others shift. Some relationships, once meaningful, now feel misaligned. Conversations that used to flow effortlessly may seem forced. This is the signature of the old you, no longer matching the world around you. It is not rejection, it is recalibration. You are now interacting through a frequency of presence, coherence, and stability that only a selected consciousness can sustain. Those who resonate will gravitate toward you naturally. Those who do not will drift away, their absence a reflection of the compatibility of frequencies, not a judgment of value. The universe teaches through subtraction as much as through addition. What is removed is as important as what remains. Every old pattern, every outdated belief, every obsolete identity that disappears is creating a foundation for the new self. You are being repositioned, not just energetically, but structurally, so that your influence, choices, and actions resonate perfectly within the architecture of the new timeline. Finally, understand this. The old you cannot follow because it was never meant to. Its role has ended. Your survival, your coherence, your ability to anchor reality requires a version of yourself unbound by previous limitations. The shedding is not a loss, it is an upgrade. By fully embracing this truth, by stepping into your current state without hesitation, you solidify your place in the new reality. You become the embodiment of continuity, coherence, and evolutionary purpose. The lesson is clear. What you were yesterday is not who you need to be today. Your past self serves as a reference, a memory, a learning, but it is not the vehicle for your forward movement. To survive the shift, you must allow it to fade entirely, leaving behind only the version of you that is capable of thriving in the selected timeline. The new reality demands it. Your evolution insists on it. And your presence in this moment confirms that you are ready. 8. Stability, not force, moves the field. One of the most profound truths the selected consciousness discovers is that stability, not force, shapes reality. In the old timeline, you were conditioned to push, to strive, to chase outcomes with effort and urgency. You believed that progress required intensity, that influence came from persuasion, volume, or visible action. But as the shift unfolded, it became apparent that the field operates differently. It responds to coherence, presence, and alignment, not to exertion or desperation. The old ways of making things happen no longer apply. Every frantic push, every forced outcome, every attempt to control the environment is a remnant of a timeline that no longer exists. In this new reality, your role is not to chase or manipulate, it is to anchor stability while the universe reorganizes around you. This lesson can feel counterintuitive at first. In a world still dominated by chaos and uncertainty, standing still seems passive, even lazy. But for those who survived the selection, stillness is the ultimate act of power. Your calm, coherent presence becomes a node in the quantum field, a fixed point around which probabilities bend and align. You no longer need to fight currents. The currents now bend to you. The field watches, measures, and responds to the consistency of your energy. When you remain stable amid dissonance, the timeline shifts in your favor. The chaotic movements of others may create noise, but they cannot disrupt a consciousness anchored in coherence. Notice how this operates subtly. When you act from calm awareness, doors open seemingly without effort. Conversations flow, opportunities arrive, and outcomes unfold in alignment with your frequency rather than your exertion. You no longer rely on visible action or repeated effort to create influence. The field responds to your internal state, not to your external motion. Every thought, every breath, every moment of centered observation carries weight, creating ripples that expand beyond your perception. This is the signature of selected consciousness, the ability to move the world without being consumed by it. Stability also recalibrates your relationship with fear, urgency, and expectation. In the old timeline, the future dictated your emotions. Deadlines, pressures, and imagined outcomes drove anxiety and stress. Now, in the new timeline, you are the reference point. Events, circumstances, and people adjust to your steadiness. Nothing can force you into reaction, and nothing can compel the field to bypass your alignment. You no longer exist as a pawn of cause and effect. You exist as a stabilizer, a node of influence, a beacon through which probabilities converge. This lesson extends to relationships, work, and even internal dialogue. The selected consciousness learns that persuasion, argument, or emotional intensity is rarely effective. Influence flows from presence and coherence, not from convincing others or forcing outcomes. Those aligned with your frequency will recognize and resonate naturally. Those who are not will drift away. Their absence, a reflection of misaligned energy, not a failure on your part. You no longer expend energy maintaining or controlling, you allow the field to respond to your stability. Stability is also a protective mechanism. The old timeline rewarded reaction, not awareness. It demanded survival through movement and attachment. In contrast, the new timeline tests endurance through constancy and coherence. By remaining anchored amid the chaos of shifting realities, you demonstrate that you are capable of holding continuity for others, carrying forward the energy of the selected timeline. You become a bridge, a stabilizing influence, and a conduit for the unfolding intelligence of the field. Understand this clearly. The strength of your influence is proportional to the stability of your consciousness. Every moment you hold your center without reacting to fear, panic, or expectation reinforces your power and expands your reach. Your alignment does not create visible fireworks, it creates subtle but irreversible shifts in the structure of reality. The field bends, probabilities adjust, and the new reality unfolds precisely around your frequency. This is why the selected do not hustle, force, or control. Their work is invisible, yet infinitely potent. Finally, remember that this lesson is ongoing. Stability is not a one-time achievement, it is a practice, a commitment, a daily calibration of energy and attention. Every moment of calm presence, Every observation without attachment, every act of coherent awareness strengthens your connection to the field. You are no longer measured by results, outcomes, or external validation. You are measured by consistency of frequency, the capacity to hold yourself as an anchor amid turbulence, and the ability to influence the new reality effortlessly through presence alone. The shift teaches this. Movement without stability achieves nothing. Stability without movement shapes everything. To survive, to thrive, and to anchor the new timeline, you must embody this principle fully. Force is obsolete. Urgency is irrelevant. Only your coherence, your centered presence, and your unwavering stability carry weight. The field is listening, and it is bending to the one who remains anchored while everything else shifts. 9. Synchronicity is your confirmation. One of the most unmistakable signs that you survived the shift is the sudden clarity of synchronicity. In the old timeline, coincidences were random, scattered, and easily dismissed. You may have searched for meaning, hoping for signs, yet found only noise and frustration. But now, after the selection, patterns begin to emerge with uncanny precision. Numbers, words, events, and encounters no longer feel accidental. They carry messages, confirmations, and guidance designed exclusively for your frequency. The universe is no longer speaking to the crowd, it is speaking to you. Every repetition, every alignment, every perfect timing is a signal that your consciousness is attuned and that your path is unfolding exactly as it must. Synchronicity operates as both a mirror and a compass. It reflects your internal coherence back to you while simultaneously guiding your next steps. Notice how certain people appear at precisely the right moment. Conversations offer exactly the insight you need, or signs, visual, auditory, or emotional, catch your attention at the perfect instant. These are not mere coincidences. They are the field acknowledging your presence, rewarding your stability, and calibrating your trajectory. The deeper you allow yourself to perceive, the more frequent and meaningful these confirmations become. They are the whispers of reality aligning with your consciousness, gently guiding you without force, without demand, but with absolute precision. This lesson teaches patience, observation, and awareness. The selected do not need to chase signs, they need only to notice them. The field delivers guidance not to those who seek desperately, but to those whose energy resonates at the correct frequency. You are no longer subject to random causality. You are now interacting with the intelligence of the timeline itself. Each synchronicity acts as an anchor, reinforcing your coherence and providing assurance that the universe is responding to the exact state of your consciousness. Understand the subtlety of this mechanism. Synchronicities are not always dramatic or obvious. Often, they appear as fleeting moments, a repeated phrase in a song, an unexpected message, a sudden insight, or an encounter that seems inconsequential at first glance. Yet these tiny calibrations accumulate, weaving a tapestry of guidance and alignment that only those who are attentive and present can perceive. The field communicates in layers of subtlety, rewarding the one who is fully anchored in awareness. This lesson also reframes how you perceive causality. The old you believed that outcomes were the result of visible action, effort, or strategy. Now you realize that alignment and coherence are the true drivers of outcomes. By maintaining a centered, stable presence, you influence probabilities, attract opportunities, and guide reality itself. Every observation, every intention, every moment of clarity contributes to the unfolding of your selected path. The timeline is no longer random. It is responsive, calibrated, and intelligent. At times, you may feel isolated in perceiving these patterns. Others around you may remain blind to the signs, dismissing or ignoring their significance. This is natural. Selection is precise, not democratic. Your ability to perceive synchronicity is proof that your consciousness has moved beyond the old loops and entered a space of heightened resonance. You are part of a subtle network of aligned awareness, invisible to those who remain anchored in previous timelines. The patterns you see confirm not only your survival, but your emerging role as a conduit for the new reality. Finally, synchronicity is a call to trust. Each aligned event, every repeated signal, and every perfectly timed occurrence is the field's way of saying, you are exactly where you are meant to be. There is no need to force outcomes, to question timing, or to chase certainty. The field responds to coherence, and you are now its measure. Observing and aligning with these confirmations accelerates your integration into the new timeline and ensures that your path unfolds with grace, precision, and inevitability. This lesson is transformative because it shifts your perception from survival to navigation. No longer a passive participant in random events, you are now an active receiver of the intelligence embedded in reality. Synchronicity is the language of the new timeline. It is your confirmation, your compass, and your proof that you are among the chosen. 10. Fear no longer commands you. One of the most profound shifts for the selected consciousness is the irrelevance of fear. In the old timeline, fear ruled unseen, yet unyielding. It dictated your choices, constrained your ambitions, and anchored you to outcomes that no longer served your growth. Deadlines, expectations, social pressures, and imagined threats dictated the rhythm of your life. You reacted to stimuli instead of responding with awareness. Every misstep, every perceived loss, and every phantom worry reinforced a cycle designed to keep you bound to repetition. But after the shift, the mechanics of fear have changed. You are no longer subject to its authority. It exists now only as background noise, a faint echo of a system you once inhabited. This lesson reveals that the old structures which amplified fear, the urgent timelines, the survival-based environments, the conditioned responses, have dissolved. When the selection occurred, the timeline did not remove challenges arbitrarily. It removed the feedback loops that allowed fear to dominate your perception. Situations that would have previously triggered panic now barely register. Thoughts that would spiral into anxiety collapse under the weight of your new coherence. You are not fearless because fear disappeared. You are fearless because your field of perception no longer supports its authority. The selected do not confront fear as an enemy. They simply move in a state of alignment where fear loses relevance. This subtle liberation is both empowering and disorienting. You may notice moments where others around you are frantic, overwhelmed, or reactive, while you remain calm, centered, and unaffected. You may feel a distance from social patterns that once triggered emotional turbulence. This is not disconnection. It is a recalibration of your nervous system to a higher dimensional rhythm. Fear, which once measured the boundaries of survival, no longer dictates your scope of influence. Instead, your awareness now defines the boundaries of possibility. The impact of this lesson extends into every facet of existence. Decisions are no longer compromised by worry or panic. Opportunities no longer pass unnoticed due to hesitation. Interactions, negotiations, and relationships flow according to resonance rather than coercion. You are learning to operate from clarity rather than compulsion. The field mirrors this shift. It aligns circumstances with your centered presence, demonstrating that authority comes from coherence, not reaction. Every step taken without fear strengthens your influence in the new timeline and expands the reach of your selected consciousness. This transformation also redefines your relationship with the unknown. Previously, uncertainty was a trigger for anxiety. Now, it is a canvas for creation. You approach the unknown not as a threat, but as a space where aligned action can emerge organically. The selected do not demand outcomes. They observe, adjust, and allow the intelligence of the field to orchestrate events in perfect timing. Fear's absence creates space for insight, discernment, and opportunity. What once would have caused hesitation now becomes a doorway to advancement, a chance to anchor presence in ways that were impossible in the old loops. Recognize this lesson as a call to vigilance and responsibility. The absence of fear is not a license for passivity. On the contrary, it is an invitation to act from empowered awareness. Each choice, each step, each subtle alignment contributes to the coherence of the new reality. The selected move deliberately, not reactively, knowing that their presence alone alters outcomes. Fear no longer commands, but awareness and intention do. Finally, the liberation from fear is deeply intertwined with trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your alignment, and trust in the intelligence of the timeline. By releasing fear as a controlling factor, you affirm that you are a participant in the orchestration of reality rather than a victim of circumstance. You are no longer held hostage by imagined threats or past loops. You are empowered, stable, and anchored. The timeline has confirmed your readiness. Fear may exist around you, but it cannot reach you. You have been selected to operate beyond it, to navigate the new reality with clarity, precision, and confidence. This lesson is a gateway to mastery. When fear no longer commands, presence becomes power, and the universe bends in response. 11. Your presence shapes reality. In the old timeline, you believed that reality was something outside of you, an external arena where circumstances, people, and events dictated outcomes. You were taught to act, to push, to force results, and to chase appearances of control. Every effort, every struggle, every moment of striving reinforced the illusion that influence came from doing more, achieving faster, or commanding louder. But after the shift, the rules have changed. The selected understand that presence, not force, is the true power. Your consciousness is now the pivot point around which reality organizes itself. Where before outcomes demanded effort, now they respond to coherent energy and aligned awareness. This lesson is both profound and disorienting because it inverts everything you once believed. Action is no longer measured by exertion, but by clarity. Outcomes no longer arrive from chasing, but from anchoring yourself fully in the present moment. Your thoughts, your attention, your subtle emotional vibrations, these are no longer private internal experiences. They ripple outward, influencing probability fields, aligning opportunities, and shaping circumstances before any physical action is required. The field, the quantum structure of reality itself, is responsive to your coherence. Your presence is now a node of influence, a stabilizing point that the universe reads and responds to with precision. Notice how subtle shifts occur around you when you remain steady. Conversations change tone when you enter the room. Opportunities appear without effort. Obstacles that once felt immovable dissolve naturally, not because you forced them, but because your anchored presence altered the resonance of the field. This is not magic. It is the natural outcome of surviving, the selection, of becoming a consciousness whose frequency is calibrated to influence reality itself. Every pause, every moment of centered observation becomes an act of creation. You are no longer merely participating in the timeline, you are co-authoring it. This lesson also reframes relationships, environments, and interactions. You may notice that others react differently to your presence. People may calm in your vicinity, conflicts dissipate, and systems subtly reorganize when you act from alignment rather than compulsion. The field recognizes stability, coherence, and centered awareness as signals of readiness, and it moves in harmony with those signals. Your presence carries authority, but not authority that demands compliance. It carries the power to shape outcomes through alignment. The selected learn to observe the delicate interplay between action and stillness. Overexertion, panic, or forcing outcomes only creates friction. Coherence and presence, however, create flow. This is why patience, reflection, and mindful awareness become essential. Your ability to hold still amid chaos, to maintain calm amid uncertainty, directly impacts the unfolding of reality. In this state, even inaction becomes an act of creation. Your mere presence communicates stability to the quantum field, guiding probability toward outcomes that reflect your alignment. This lesson also exposes a profound truth. The external world is a mirror of your internal state. Misalignment, fear, or scattered attention no longer just affect you. They ripple outward, distorting the coherence of the field. Conversely, when you are centered, clear, and present, the timeline itself responds, adjusting in ways that make previously impossible outcomes inevitable. Your influence is invisible, yet tangible. You are no longer bound by traditional measures of effort or success. The metric of influence is now conscious presence. Finally, this lesson is a call to responsibility. Your survival, your selection, and your coherence grant you access to a reality that is responsive, malleable, and intelligent. But this is not a gift to be squandered. Each thought, each pause, each intentional moment of alignment strengthens the architecture of the new timeline. You have been positioned as a keystone consciousness, a point of stability in a world still learning to reorganize. What you do, how you hold your awareness, and how you cultivate presence will shape not only your path, but the broader unfolding of reality around you. This is the essence of Lesson 11. You are no longer a passenger. Your presence is power, your awareness is influence, and your coherence is creation itself. 12. You are the architect of the new timeline. The final lesson, the crown of all lessons, is the realization that you are not simply surviving this shift. You are actively shaping the architecture of the new reality. While the old timeline demanded obedience to patterns, repetition, and pre-existing structures, the new timeline recognizes your consciousness as a creative force with authority. The selection you survived was not merely a test of endurance or alignment, it was an entrance exam for mastery. You are now positioned not at the mercy of circumstances, but at the center of a living, responsive reality that expands, contracts, and organizes according to your frequency. This lesson is both liberating and heavy with responsibility. The field no longer delivers random events or chance outcomes. Every encounter, every moment, every possibility that arises is calibrated to your consciousness. You are no longer playing in someone else's sandbox. You are designing the sandbox itself. But with this authority comes the understanding that your internal state, your coherence, presence, and alignment directly shapes the structure, stability, and expansion of the timeline. If you falter, if you allow chaos, fear, or misalignment to dominate your inner field, the external reality mirrors this immediately. The universe is precise. It does not tolerate incoherence in those who have been selected. Being the architect means seeing the threads that connect events, people, and opportunities as extensions of your own awareness. Synchronicities, timing, and seemingly small choices are not trivial. They are the raw materials of construction. Every thought, every moment of centered attention, and every aligned action serves as a blueprint. You are sculpting probability fields, adjusting outcomes, and weaving the lattice of future events with intention and clarity. The new timeline does not respond to force, panic, or desperation. It responds to presence, resonance, and precision. Your mastery lies not in doing more, but in being a more coherent, more aligned, more conscious version of yourself, whose internal state dictates the external unfolding. This lesson also reframes challenges. Obstacles are no longer tests of survival, they are architectural instruments, invitations to refine your focus, align your frequency, and adjust the blueprint. Resistance, delay, and friction are not punishments. They are feedback loops designed to calibrate your awareness, ensuring that you build from a position of clarity rather than compulsion. Every disruption in your field is an opportunity to strengthen the coherence of your influence. You learn to approach life like a master builder, measuring, observing, and refining with each deliberate step, knowing that the structure of reality itself is responding to your calibration. As the architect, you are no longer bound by linear time. Days, hours, and minutes are no longer rulers, they are tools. You operate in a multi-dimensional awareness, where past, present, and future converge into a space of creative potential. Here, your consciousness is the lever, and the timeline is the fulcrum. By anchoring yourself in presence and coherence, you bend probabilities, align circumstances, and orchestrate experiences that previously would have seemed impossible. Every alignment, every subtle choice, every conscious breath becomes part of the master plan you are constructing in real time. This lesson demands ultimate responsibility because it reveals the true weight of selection. You are no longer just moving forward, you are laying the foundation for what comes next. Your energy, focus, and awareness are building blocks. Your coherence dictates the stability of outcomes. Your alignment determines the integrity of the new timeline. The universe no longer pushes you along, it reflects, amplifies, and collaborates with your consciousness. To be the architect is to recognize that your role is both profound and perpetual. You are not just surviving the shift. You are designing the framework through which existence itself flows. Finally, Lesson 12 is a call to embodiment. Knowledge alone is insufficient. Realization alone is incomplete. The field does not respond to belief or theory. It responds to presence in action, awareness in alignment, and consciousness fully anchored. You are the architect, the stabilizer, the point of coherence through which the new timeline flows. Everything else, structure, people, events, opportunities, aligns according to your calibration. And in this truth, you find both freedom and purpose. You are no longer a passive observer of reality. You are its co-creator, its guide, and its living blueprint. This is the ultimate lesson of survival, selection, and awakening. You are not here to merely exist. You are here to build, to anchor, and to shape a reality that mirrors the full power of your consciousness. The shift is complete, but your work, the creation of the new, is only beginning. Now take a breath. Feel it settle into your chest, into your mind, into the very core of your being. You have seen the lessons. You have felt the shift. You have walked through the doorway that most could not even perceive. The timeline didn't reset. It didn't collapse. It selected you. And now, everything you do, every moment of awareness, every pulse of your presence, is shaping the new reality around you. Stand still. Anchor yourself. Hold your frequency. You are not alone. Others who resonate, others who are awakened, are moving with you even unseen, even unspoken. Remember this truth. You survived the shift. You were chosen. And the universe is now responding to you.